Hey everybody, it's John Mower once again here, hometown historian. We're going to do a country roads take me home. We're right now on Weavertown Road, I believe. We just left Reistville and we're heading over to Newmanstown, Richland area. I'm actually making a run over to see somebody's mom. They're away for a couple days and just make sure they're doing okay and all that. But I figured while I'm driving here, it's a pretty little drive here in the spring, I might as well do a country roads take me home, because voice is almost completely back. Don't sound like I could be the spokesman for Marlboro anymore. Not quite. Maybe asthma, inhalers or something like that. But I started a part-time job working with my friend Josh, and so I clean chairs for an events and parties company. It's a pretty cool job. I just have issues with my back like normal. It's just sort of getting reacclimated to working again, because I really haven't worked regularly for about 10.5 months, because it was middle of June last year when I had to quit because my foot had broken open and infected and all that good stuff last year before I wound up having 4 huge surgeries. So I figured, you know what, why not make a video here after work and heading over into this area into Berks County. It should be a fun day. And here we go. As I think this has a route number, but there is a road name to it, but it's sort of in between Schaeferstown and Newmanstown. It's a really pretty road, a really pretty area of country. We've been through here a bunch of times, but anywho, sort of is what it is. I have a lot of memories back in here. I was delivering papers for Harrisburg Patriot News, and I had one of the furthest routes from the center, and I used to do all throughout the area. So I remember driving around through here at night, well, in the morning, but it was dark. You know, you're coming through like 4 or 5 in the morning. A lot of different stories with that. I had the worst one, because you get so tired, and I had one, I was back, this was an area further southeast. I could have swore I saw a horse run in front of me across the road, and that was sort of the point when I realized there was no horse. I was like, yeah, I think it's time to go home. I was pretty tired doing that. The other funny thing is, you had to get your timing down, because you were moving 10-15 miles an hour when you were throwing the paper. And in Schaeferstown, I threw one, and you knew exactly when to throw it so it would land right at their door. Well, they had a huge hedge that was in front of them, in front of the door, so you had no idea what was on the other side of the hedge. So I threw it over the hedge, and I nailed their cat, or a cat. All you heard was meow, and then the thing goes tear it off. I was like, ooh, oops. I hit a bird once midair, which, what are the chances of that? I don't think that thing made it, because it was a Thursday paper, and the Thursday paper was thick. It was smaller than the Sunday paper, but it was, you know, you're getting hit with 4 pounds of moving paper that's going at like probably 10 miles an hour. You're probably not going to be feeling great after the end of that. But you see the mountain range over there. It's just really pretty going through here. We're coming up on, we're in like Mill Creek. Up in this area is where I think it's St. Paul's, either Lutheran or Reformed, in Millbach. We had filmed there, done a bunch of photography there as well. Pretty little town. And then of course, coming up here to Newmanstown is where we are coming up to where Fort Zeller is, which is right out over there. You can see sort of like a farm thing going over. That's where Fort Zeller is. Cliffs, another road's closed down. This is nuts. It's like one road after another I come up on, and it's like detour, detour, detour. Let's do all the road work all at once. That way John can't find his way home, and he'll cry. This is the village of Newmanstown coming up here, but we're going to make a left. We have stopped at that historic marker, the Fort Zeller historic marker, so it'll wind up being nice now that we can't go through Newmanstown, which sort of stinks because I wanted to go by that church, the Elias Church. That's the one that has the Trick Sisters are buried there. Really pretty church apparently too. Somebody had mentioned to me that that's a church. He said if you can get in there, it's a really, really pretty church. But right over there is Fort Zeller. It's sort of the smaller building in front of the barn there. That is the oldest fort in Pennsylvania, I believe. Now, it's not the oldest building in Lebanon County because Lights Fort is actually older. Fort Zeller, I believe, was in the early 1720s, but it was a log structure, the first structure, so they rebuilt it, I believe, in the 1740s as the stone structure that currently stands. And that is a building that we will be going to at some point. Cliff and I want to make the arrangement to be able to get the tour. And which another cool thing to note, that to make an announcement, Cliff and I are going to be filming together this Saturday. They are opening up, I forget if it's the Lebanon Conservation or one of those things. They have a number of different places like Lights Fort that they take care of. Well, that's one of the 4 buildings that they are opening up for tours this Saturday in the Lebanon area. Lights Fort is opening up. It's 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, May 13th, which is this coming Saturday. And Cliff and I are going to go to Lights Fort first. Then we're going to go over to Lindley Murray Schoolhouse because neither one of us has ever been there inside. We have filmed there a couple of times for some shorts and also done a long form video. But we're going to go there and then over to Monroe Valley Chapel because they'll have that open. Because it'd be cool to be able to film inside there just like at a Fort Zeller is sort of the idea, being able to show you guys what it actually looks like inside. So you'll get to see with Lindley Murray Schoolhouse, you'll get to see what like an 1840s, 1850s one-room schoolhouse looked like back at that time period. We'll actually get to see inside Lights Fort. Hopefully we'll be able to go down into the spring. That building has a tremendous history, including being used, I believe, with the Underground Railroad that would have started, before the French and Indian War, but they had these really awesome tunnels. And I'll tell you some stories about that as well, because we filmed there a number of times. And then, like I said, Monroe Valley Chapel will actually film on the inside if we have enough time, because Lights Fort's the priority. And the last of those 4 buildings that's available for tours is the Chestnut Street Log Home, which is a typical 1700s Germanic log house that would have made up, at that time would have been Stouchsburg, but eventually became Lebanon. That one is actually open in July and August, I believe it's the 2nd and the 4th Wednesdays. I'll correct that, but we figured because that's open more regularly, that's one that we can skip on that particular day, considering there's only really 3 hours to be able to hit whatever we can. I know we'll definitely be able to hit 2. I'm hoping we can hit a 3rd, because it'd just be cool to be able to show you guys that. And then at some point here in the near future as well, Cliff and I will be filming the 1862 Union Canal or Swatara flood, which took the lives of 9 people there in the Lickdale region, which at the time would have been known as Union Forge. But really terrible event. And we're going to give you some of the first-hand accounts, read those off and tell you. And we're hoping to be able to find in the cemeteries, the local cemeteries, some of the people that excuse me, passed. I don't know what that was. Drinking a brisk strawberry melon. It is delicious, but it makes me burp. But so excuse my burpiness and my grossness. Forgive me, please. But this is Richland here. We weren't able to go through Newmanstown. Richland's a pretty little town. This is actually a town was really known for its cigar factories. Weirdly enough, actually in this area, Myerstown even is a town that I lived in. They were really well known in this area. Cigar factories were really profitable. They actually had in Myerstown, right down the street from me, it was on Carpenter Street, there were two separate cigar factories. One of them, unfortunately, there are people that I went to school with, they lived in one of them, burnt down. It was electrical fire or something of that sort. The other one, that one's still standing, but you know, they weren't anything terribly impressive, but you know, usually wood structures. But at that time period, the Victorian era, say 1880s to 1930s, cigar factories in this area were very popular and did very well for the people, because you'd have, you know, you could have 50, 60 people, maybe 100 people working in one of these small factories. It's pretty cool, actually. But anyways, that was Richland. But yeah, we're going to be doing that at some point. We're going to be filming. It was sort of like, Cliff did a video on Johnstown flood. Johnstown flood, what made it so horrific, not only the main dam that broke, but there were a lot of railroad bridges and bridges in general that would cross that creek. There were the creeks that went down through, and what would happen is all the debris would sort of block up and create another dam. So it was sort of this effect where a dam would break, it would be the massive, really powerful, all the water coming through at once in an area, and then it would wind out stopping again and then doing it all over again. That's sort of what made it even more devastating. And that's sort of, not to that degree, but there was a dam up in Pine Grove where Sweet Arrow Lake is now. That dam broke. And then what was really bad about that flood is then the big Swatara Gap Dam, that broke, and that's what made it really bad, because there was so much water in that, and by the time it hit Union Forge, nobody stood a chance. I mean, it was bad. It just, when that got hit, and that's where the people that got killed were in that general area. A lot of them got out ahead of time, but it was one of those things where they had, in some of the first-hand accounts, the one gentleman was pleading with the one family that, I think the most people that got killed in any family, pleading with them to go with him on his boat, because he said, this is coming, there's no stopping it, and you need to get out of here now. And I guess the dad was stubborn, and everybody got killed except for the father, which is sort of ironic that he's the one that sort of kept everybody there. And yet, you know, I don't know, it's just one of those things, like, the more you read about it, the more you're like, what in the world was going through this guy's head? So this is a mill that used to be here. I'm trying to think exactly where I am, but it's now like a hunting and fishing club. And this is the Tulpahawken Creek right here. But a lot of pretty stone homes, stone barns all over the place in this area. Just figured you guys would enjoy going on a little bit of a drive through here. Somebody's puppy there. It's just such a pretty Eye Palatine, like Germany. There's another. That is a beautiful stone home. Just stunning. I think this is Stouchsburg, coming up right here. Yeah, look at that. Look at that stone. Oh, wow. There's a lot of little pretty places here in Stouchsburg. This is the church that's right near Christ Lutheran. It was the home of I'm trying to think what his name. He was the Muhlenberg family. I don't know why I can't think of the guy's name, but Schultz is his last name. But he was governor of Pennsylvania from 1823 to 1829. His mother was one of the Muhlenberg sisters, but they had a political dynasty for probably 60, 70 years, were really, really important to the United States and Pennsylvania. And John Andrew Schultz is his name. They have a historic marker. We did not on him a couple of times. And he made a lot of improvements. He wanted to do a lot more, but he just had people who were really, really difficult. And that's a pretty church. Not a church anymore as far as I know. It's an old Lutheran church. I don't think it's a church anymore. I think that it was one of those situations where congregation got so small that they just went out shutting down. I think that's the church, if I'm thinking of it correctly. Yeah. But anyways, that's another one. It was one of those iron markers. We got to do a video on that at some point on Stouchsburg. I always love places. They had between Annville and Palmyra, they had all these trees planted, and they're just so pretty. But more times than not, they wind out. Somebody decides, oh, it's a good idea to cut them down. But it used to, I think, going into Halifax is another area that I remember where they have the trees lining the road, and it just looks so pretty. I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna turn left. There's one of these old iron markers for the Tulpahawken Creek. A lot of those were put out in like the 30s, 40s. Another pretty stone home. But a lot of them don't survive because, I mean, they're iron, so. I like how they have the carriage house there as well. An old spring. Sort of go into the side of the hill and have a little doorway that goes back into the spring, and it's sort of cool. My friends, they lived down in Greenpoint for a while growing up, my best friend and his family, and that's the cemetery where a number of Clifford's ancestors are buried as well. I forget what that's like, Reeds or something, whatever it is, but that's a cemetery where supposedly the people that built Zeller's fort are buried there. There's nothing to find a grave, and they sort of wonder whether she existed or not, because she was supposed to be French nobility of some sort, so you just don't know. Like, you have family legends and all that kind of stuff, and is trying to put everything together. Cliff had done videos on that, and it was pretty interesting. It's one of those French names that's sort of hard to pronounce, and I do a really bad job at and get yelled at, so I'm not going to do it because my feelings will get hurt. But yeah, it's just another pretty country drive that I figured I'd take you guys on right before I'm trying to think what the name of the town. My brain's not functioning today at all. I think I'm having one of those things like with my fibromyalgia. I get like these brain fogs, and I just sort of been off. I'm surprised I can remember my own name on some of those days. But anywho, it's where Conrad Weiser, Wilmelsdorf. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but we were coming up on Wilmelsdorf there, but I made a left and decided to not go through town. But I'm going to end the video here in a second. Still got that. At some point here, we're hoping is the company, my friend's company, is called Painted Squirrel. that'll have my photography on there, plus a lot of really, really neat things. They're doing a lot with AI art, where they basically tell the AI what you want and it sort of develops it. And Sharon developed especially this one really, really neat thing where it's sort of like a storybook, and it's like storybook come to life. And she developed all these separate features and then put them all together in this one piece of artwork, and it's just really, really neat. And then they're also going to be using her dad's wildlife photography, so there's all kinds of options with that. And from digital art, which is the cheapest by far, and then keep in mind some of the stuff there's a certain price to them, because the idea behind it is that it's there to help the channel take care of expenses and that type of stuff. So it is a little bit more expensive, and you're going through, in essence, like 2 companies to make it happen. But we'll be testing that out here at some point and going through there. But as always, I want to say thank you for coming along on another adventure here at Country Roads Take Me Home. And as always, we'll see you all about town.